let's get to my next topic is right here. Now, we go into the problem with taking Abdul Carter at number 2, right? Let's get to it. What is the issue with taking Abdul Carter at number 2? First of all, let me just say something. I believe that Abdul Carter at number 2 is he's a great pass rusher. I believe that he has some things that he can really do. I believe he has some things that he is really able to exploit at a college level, and I think those things transfer to the NFL. I think he is a little bit undersized. He's not as big as a Myles Garrett. However, he does have the quickness. He has the bend. He does have the explosiveness. He just doesn't have the sheer size that a Myles Garrett has at 275, 280. Myles Garrett is a generational player. Myles Garrett is a Hall of Famer. I don't know specifically if you can call Abdul Carter in the same game and same field as him. That's not fair. It's just like compared Mike Hall Jr. to Aaron Donald. You just can't do it, especially if a guy is already on a Hall of Fame trajectory. So I like Abdul Carter. Go back and watch him. He's explosive. He can bend the corner. He runs the hoops. He has good hand placement. He's lightning quick on his first step. He has the ability to play in space. He was an outside linebacker at one point in time. So let's not get it twisted like we're sitting here and we're going to bash Abdul Carter. That ain't what this is about. This is about value of said position. I'm going to get to a quote right here. This is from Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Dustin Fox said something, and this had me thinking about what it was that the Cleveland Browns need to do at number 2.
Can.
Yes.
But Andrew Berry can. And Kevin Stefanski. The question is, can the Browns afford to pass on a quarterback with the number 2 pick, right? Okay. Yeah, the Browns can.
Yes.
But Andrew Berry can. And Kevin Stefanski can't. That's why they need to take quarterback at 2, because those guys, if Cam or Shedeur turn out to not be good players, okay.
They're going to get fired.
They're going to get fired. Guess what else? If they draft a safe player or a defensive end or whatever it may be at 2, and they still don't have a quarterback, they're going to get fired. So you got to just pray and hope. The only way I think these guys keep their jobs and come back is if the quarterback, one of those 2 guys, ends up becoming a good player.
If that's the case, that's a terrible situation for the organization to be in.
How can it be any other case?
It seems like that's the case.
I think it's pretty obvious.
And that was on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And, the conversation went on and it talked about, just what do you do if you value a quarterback? Is it evaluation for the quarterback higher than any other position? And where do the philosophy come from that you take the best available player and you don't reach for a quarterback? So let's talk about this. And again, this doesn't necessarily have to do with whether it's Shedeur Sanders or whatever. Nathan Segura said something on Cleveland Browns Daily. I thought I had the clip loaded, but I'll just go ahead and give you the gist of what he's saying. He said that right now he's confused by Browns fans and a lot of people in the media because it seems as if all of the negative things that have gone on in the past with your quarterback situation, whether it is the Whedons or Colt McCoys or Brady Quinn or all the way to, the Bakers of the world and Deshaun Watsons, because you failed and swung and missed so many times, the effect is that the media as well as the fan base seems to not want to take a quarterback at any cost. If you talk about quarterback, it's like it's the first thing that people want to back away from the table with. Well, we can't do that. We can't afford to miss that. But we do the same thing every year, people. We do the same thing every single year. We get to the off season. We tell each other that we don't need, weapons or receivers. We go into the season. We start playing. Defense looks solid. And the offense can't score over 14 points. Season continues to go on. Quarterback play is spotty. musical chairs at quarterback. And the radio waves and the radio and the internet is filled with everybody screaming at the top of their lungs, we don't have a quarterback. I spent all of 2024 talking about why we don't have a quarterback and why Deshaun Watson was the worst pick of all time, why it was the worst contract, and the Browns aren't going to do anything unless they get a quarterback. You lost all of them games. All of those games cost you Myles Garrett. We talked about it last week. You've been losing games hand over fist since he got here. You win 3 games. You don't have a quarterback, but you get here. You earned the 3rd pick because you didn't have a quarterback, but now you're willing to entertain a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. You're willing to do gymnastics for Kirk Cousins. You're willing to squint and see if I even had stories last week that people talk about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, he might come through. For why? Why would he do that? You're on a 3-win team. Why Justin Fields might come. I even heard Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is pulling up. Come on. This is where we're going, people. We would rather contort ourselves and make believe and get some 35 to 37 to 41-year-old quarterback and hope that we can squeak 6 to 7 wins out. But Dustin so eloquently put it there. He said, look, that'd be great if you had another 3 to 4 years that you were guaranteed from Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, but they don't. And honestly, I do believe that the only way that they're keeping their jobs is if they find a quarterback and that guy looks like a franchise guy. So we could be smart all we want. They could try to play the smart role and they could accumulate picks and trade back and do all this other stuff. If you ain't got a quarterback and you got Abdul Carter, you're not saving your job. As a matter of fact, that brings me to my thesis statement. 1,029 people in here. Hit that like button wherever you're at. If you're on Facebook, hit that like button. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're on Twitter, hit the like button for me. Appreciate it. This brings me to my thesis statement, the problem with Abdul Carter at 2. You had Myles Garrett this year. Just walk with me. You had Myles Garrett this year, the best defensive lineman, and you probably had the best defensive lineman for the last 7 years. Myles Garrett's going to go down as one of the top 1, 2, 3 pass rushers and defensive players, mainly defensive linemen, but he will be all-time great defensively, period. You got the best pass rusher. You got the defensive player of the year. And guess what? With the defensive player of the year, you got 3 wins. Let that sink in. While teams like the Broncos with Bo Nix, teams with Jaden Daniels, those teams are going to the playoffs. And you got the most explosive defensive end in the game, and you won 3 games. Now let's extrapolate this. If you draft Abdul Carter at 2, what do you think? What percentage of what percentage of his production is he going to give you of Myles Garrett? I'll be kind. I would usually put it at 50%. The rookie sack record is 14.5 sacks by Javon Curse. If Abdul Carter gives you, 75% of what Myles Garrett gave you this year, he'd give you what, roughly 10 sacks? 10 sacks, okay. Taking the fact that I play defensive end and I know what the game is, that means you've affected the game in a 17-game season 10 times. Now, I know you can get tackles for loss. I know you can be accounted for double and triple teams. I know you can get tackles for run plays. I know you can just be overall disruptive. I get that. I completely do. But say you just be kind and say, I'm going to give you 35 tackles and another few solos. I'm going to give you, outside of that 10, I'm going to give you 7 or 8 more tackles for loss on quarterback or on running backs or different things. So in total, you got 10 sacks plus the 7 tackles for loss. Those are your impact plays. The tackles downfield and stuff like that. Maybe if you get a couple forced fumbles, strip sacks, 3 or 4 of those. I'm being generous. 17, you're looking at 25 to 26 plays that you're affecting the game at a high level. I'm not even taking in consideration when you make these plays. These plays may be in garbage time. These plays may be in time when the game is out of hand. These stats that you're accumulating may be outside a realm of anything that had the game on the line. 17, 20, 21. And I'm just being kind with this. But when you take a look at the quarterback touches the ball every single play. Protection schemes, every play. Audible, every play. In and out of the huddle, every play. Throwing the ball, handing the ball off, play action fakes. He controls the whole entire game, the whole game. We know this. So when it comes to value, and when it comes to, okay, we want to draft Abdul Carter, but we still don't want a quarterback here. You're handcuffing yourself. And I don't believe, as we talked about, I don't believe that people have sat and watched Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or any of these guys and came up with an evaluation based on what they've saw and based on what they're seeing on the film. We've already established that people just repeat what other people say. We did a whole 35 minutes on that. People in general are not looking at this. So what is behind it? Fear. Absolute fear. Because you feel that if you take a lesser position, that there is not a great, they're more likely to bust at quarterback than other positions. I can give you example after example why that's not true. Let's start with Jed Wills that was taken with a top 10 pick. One of the worst tackles in the game. Top 10 pick. Oh, just take a left tackle every single time. Okay, see how that worked? I mean, is Greg Newsome anything to write home over? He's a top 10, he's a first round corner. I think he has like 1 or 2 picks. 1, maybe 2. I mean, again, we're talking about the value. And the value is, if you do not have a quarterback or look for one, you're in trouble. I said on UCSS, you know what I would do? I take one every year. Matter of fact, I take 2 in this draft. I take one with the 2nd pick, and then I'll go and draft one in the 4th or the 3rd. People say, dog, you crazy. Guess who did that before? That's what the Washington Commanders did. They took RG3, traded up to get him, all them picks, and guess in the 4th round who they took? Kirk Cousins. You see, the Browns, we say what we want to do and all that good stuff, but you are never going to ever get out of this purgatory unless you get a mentality and a mind state that we must take risk and we must find a quarterback. I know a lot of y'all is gun shy. We just gave up these picks for Deshaun Watson and it didn't work. It was the worst trade. Now we're going to force a quarterback. Listen, if you don't have one, you're getting fired anyway. You think Abdul Carter, if you won 3 games with Myles Garrett, how many games you going to win if Myles Garrett ain't there and Abdul Carter is there? 2? Fired. And the thing that we continually do here, and I don't know whether it's they sold us on this blue collar mentality and we're going to run the ball and pound this and we're going to keep it close to the vest, and that don't work no more, fellas. Stop all of that. Every single year we get into the same argument. Where's your weapons at? You need to score the football. Where's your quarterback at? Where's your second receiver? Where's your vertical game? Where's your explosiveness behind? Like, what is it? We do it every year. But yet and still, we don't hear nothing about no risk. I would even respect it if people was like this. Give me Travis Hunter. You know why? It's 2 positions for one. He's the best receiver. And at least we can put him with Jerry Jeudy. And if you want to run a retread out there, they at least have some weapons. You don't even hear Travis Hunter's name. You know why? we are allergic to offense. We are allergic to it. Allergic. Like we feel like it's a bad thing to have receivers get 1,000 yards. It's horrible it's just, I don't know, the conservative nature of what we talk about all the time. It's just wild to me. It's wild to me. So you don't even hear Travis Hunter's name. You hear, let's take Mason Graham or let's take a defensive lineman or a left tackle. And that mentality has gotten you where? You had the best left tackle in the world for 10 years. Never missed a snap. And guess what happened? Joe Thomas never went to the playoffs. Because guess why? Didn't have a quarterback, boys and girls. It's not that difficult. It's just not. It ain't. Maybe y'all got a rebuttal. We'll get to the comments. We're going to throw this in the comment section here. 1,100 people here. Hit the like button. Super chat question. Let me take this down first. Super chat question. This is an easy one. Who would you take at number 2? I've given you the case for the problem with Abdul Carter. Again, I'm not saying Abdul Carter won't be a dynamic player. Not saying Abdul Carter is garbage. I'm not saying none of the above. Listen to the words coming out of my mouth. What I am saying to you is, it's not about him as a player. It's about the value. And for many people, I think they value the position of defensive end and line a ton. They matter. Yes, they do. When you have a quarterback. But void or without a quarterback, those positions are meaningless, to be honest with you. They're meaningless. He can't touch the ball. They can literally run away from him. Abdul Carter's over here. Let him get double teamed. It's what happens to Myles Garrett. Let him double team him over there. We'll run away from him. And if you can't score points and your defense is on the field all the time, what good is lineman? It just doesn't make sense. So Super Chat, listen, who do you want to take at number 2? Let's get to some of these comments. Let's get to them. All right, let's go. Felonious Monk. I like the name. Pat proved something in the Super Bowl. If your team can't run and your offensive tackles are getting beat on the first step, it doesn't matter what your name is. You're gonna stink at quarterback. They look like the Browns. Let's talk about this. When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They got the break speed off of them. And yes, the defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles was lights out. I thought the Philadelphia Eagles overall, in terms of their game plan, had a better overall game plan on offense, better overall game plan on defense, more physical, and they just looked shell-shocked. They came in and punched them right in the mouth in the first quarter, got them up all the way up out of here. That game was not even close. More of what I'm talking about in terms of the quarterback and the value of the position is what I'm articulating is, if you don't have at least a top tier, top 10 type, top 15 type quarterback, you won't even sniff the Super Bowl. You won't even be in contention. Now, once you get there and you're playing against another top flight quarterback like, Pat Mahomes did, and another great team, anything can happen. They got great defensive players over there. They got good offensive players over there. They just happen to win. It is what it is. But what I'm talking about is lower on the food chain, different from the Cleveland Browns. See, it's cool to say that, but you got to understand that the Chiefs and the Browns are not in the same category. There's levels to this. The Chiefs defense, they got defense. They got Chris Jones. They got ball players. They got a defense, right? Pat Mahomes, they got receivers. They got DeAndre Hopkins. They got a bunch of different people, right? But the Browns, they're devoid of everything. And so the question is, during a rebuild in which we're doing right now, especially if they go ahead and trade Myles Garrett, the question you have to answer yourself is, what's the most important building block for starting a franchise? And I'll give you this, Felonious. When the Browns tanked, right, and got Myles Garrett in 2017, they drafted a Hall of Fame player. They hit a home run with that. However, if you was to redraft that class, the correct pick was Patrick Mahomes. Look at the trajectory. Quarterback is always going to outdo defensive ends. It just is what it is. Even if one of the defensive ends is one of the greats. If you do it over, if the Cleveland Browns were smart, they would draft Patrick Mahomes. Myles Garrett is a great player, but what I'm talking about and preaching comes down to value. I'm watching Shedeur throw double covered bombs and wide receiver making circus catches just like Johnny Manziel. If you're comparing Johnny Manziel to Shedeur Sanders, I don't know if you got the all 22, fam. I'm just had to call that out. If you're watching regular highlight tapes of Travis Hunter going to get the football, yeah, he's gonna make some plays. But there's times where when you watching the all 22, Shedeur Sanders is getting hit right in the mouth and delivering footballs with anticipation in small windows. Go back. I'm gonna give you some homework. Go watch Chase Daniels' evaluation on Shedeur Sanders. Go watch Chris Sims' evaluation on Shedeur Sanders. And finally, it just came out a couple of days ago. Go watch, who was it? Go watch Todd McShay's evaluation on Shedeur Sanders. He talks about him being the best pure passer in this draft. And he talks about some of the throws that he didn't even really, he kind of didn't see in the beginning, but there's some throws that are big time in there. So go back and watch those evaluations. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Grass and Bass. Anyone scared about drafting the quarterback has been brainwashed into thinking the quarterback is not a for sure thing. You can't draft him in the first round. Here's the thing that I always get when it comes to the quarterback situation. And people leave this out of the equation a lot. Everybody wants to what responsibility do we really place on our coaching in front office? It seems as if the front office and the coaching staff get all the praise, but none of the downside. Like, we draft the quarterback. When you draft the quarterback, you have to put players around him. You have to create a scheme to really maximize what he's good at. You got to coach him up. You got to be hands-on. You got to develop people. What happened to development? It just seems like people want, hey, let me get me a John Elway. Come in right out. Let me get me a Marino. Is there an Andrew Luck in this draft? People want all of these guys to come in and just be great, dynamic right now. Oh, this is great. We'll never have a problem with this. We got so-and-so and so-and-so. Nah, man. What role does your coaching staff have? Kevin Stefanski, you don't got to do nothing. Kevin Stefanski got to have a perfect quarterback build before he's good. And here's the thing I give you about Kevin Stefanski, and we can talk about this and refute what I'm saying. I've always asked, what exactly makes Kevin Stefanski a great coach? What exactly are the traits and characteristics of Kevin Stefanski and his football teams that make him a great coach? I'll wait. Who has he developed? His communication is horrible. We know his communication with Baker Mayfield was terrible. They eventually stopped even talking. Wouldn't return his phone calls. Communication with Deshaun Watson, horrible. He let Deshaun Watson do all kind of other different stuff nobody else on the team could do. His communication with star players is bad. His communication with players with big personalities is bad. His communication with DTR was horrible. DTR didn't even know when he was playing. Just woke up, came in, just showed up. Ha ha! You're playing today against the Ravens? How you not give your kid, your young quarterback, an opportunity to understand what's going on? Communication was horrible with Jameis Winston. Deshaun Watson goes down. Jameis Winston is the quarterback that same week. He gives play calling to Dorsey. Jameis Winston goes to him confused. Hey, man, look, I came here to have you call the plays. But I'm kind of taken aback. What's going on here? It can't be the win-loss record. Can't be the win-loss record. You're under 500. Is it one of the most penalized teams? What is it? You haven't put 2 years together back to back. How many playoff wins you got? When you start to have to break it down and actually have to articulate some of this stuff, it don't look like it. G. Bush, we ain't taking a quarterback at 2. Hey, listen. If Kevin Stefanski don't want to do it, that is what it is. Y'all ain't got to take no quarterback at 2. Don't do it. Here's what I'm going to tell you, though. If you don't win 8, 9, 10 games, y'all getting fired. It's easy for you to sit here and say that. Very easy. We ain't taking no quarterback at 2. Okay. Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, y'all might want to figure it out. John Lindell, do you agree with Nathan Zegura that we have to take a quarterback too? Even if he turns out to be a bust without a franchise quarterback, we go nowhere. Listen, thank you very much. Let's get to this. I mentioned that earlier. If you were to take, and so let me give you this. This isn't a new thing. When the Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen in the top 10, he played 1 year and was terrible. Guess what happened? The next year, Kyler Murray was coming out. They traded Josh Rosen in 1 year and drafted Kyler Murray number 1 overall. This isn't something new, guys. I would take a quarterback until I hit. Okay? Baker wasn't it. You decided you didn't like him. Deshaun Watson flamed out. Decided it wasn't him. You tried to find out if Jameis Winston can be a bridge quarterback to kind of, couple of years here or there, win you some games. You found out that wasn't it. You had DTR in the roster. You put him in at the end of the year. You found out he wasn't it. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep drafting quarterbacks till I figure it out. I'm going to take one this year. I'm going to take 2, matter of fact. And we're going to find out. Because regardless, you're already rebuilding. I don't understand what you guys don't get about that. You're trying to fit a scenario and trying to figure something out, which we've already seen. We've already seen the Cleveland Browns go 1-31. We saw what they did. They drafted, you drafted Myles Garrett. And as great as Myles Garrett has been, you had no quarterback. They haven't done anything. You lost games earlier in Joe Thomas's career. As great as Joe Thomas is, a Hall of Famer, guess what? You didn't have a quarterback. You lost. Now we want to go back to do the same thing. Let me get Abdul Carter or whatever the case may be. No. I'm not doing it. I'm going to find a quarterback. If Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward ain't it, whatever the case may be, cool. I'll come back and do it again next year. And if that don't work, I'll come back and do it. Because that is the game we play. I know it's a high-stakes game. But look what other people have done and are doing. When Alex Smith was taking the Kansas City Chiefs to the playoffs, and Andy Reid said it ain't good enough and they got Mahomes. You think about it. Russell Wilson, this is a different. I'm gonna get off this topic here in a second because I'm gonna get to some Cavs. I'm gonna get some Cavs and I'm gonna show you the difference in levels. The difference between you and us, the Browns fandom in Pittsburgh and other places is this. Guess what Pittsburgh's gonna do? I'm gonna tell you what they're gonna do. Pittsburgh is going to let all these other dudes in front of them play around. And they got Russell Wilson, right? If Russell Wilson had done what he did in Cleveland, what he did in Pittsburgh, we'd be sitting here talking about why can't we re-sign him? Because he got us to the playoffs. But you know what the Steelers are going to do? They're going to say, no, that ain't good enough for what we're trying to do. We're trying to win that trophy. They're going to go out and try to find the best opportunity to get them a quarterback. And I'm going to tell you what, watch out for Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart will not go in the second round. I'm going to tell you that right now. Jackson Dart will be in the first round, boys and girls. Quarterbacks always rise. This is nothing new. Go back and watch. Do you see what the Denver Broncos did? Did you see what they did? Bo Nix wasn't on nobody's list, but you know what they figured out? We cannot do it if we don't got a quarterback. And you know what? They found somebody, evaluated, and took him. It's the blueprint is out there for you guys. But unless you want to continue to have these seasons where we're talking in circles about why we don't have a quarterback, you don't get a quarterback unless you got some skin in the game. Got to. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you. They don't want to listen, G. Bush. Remember when they was calling Wembley the best defensive end they've seen in years? What happened? Listen, keep talking that talk. See, I'm old enough to remember when you drafted Courtney Brown. What did that do? Remember Barkevius Mingo at 6? We not going to talk about Cam Wembley. Remember when they took Cam Irving and Danny Shelton? You had 2 first-round picks in a draft, and these idiots came up, literally pulled up and said, give me a center that can't play center and give me a nose tackle that's a one-down player. Danny Shelton and Cam Irving. This is why I don't understand why people just, these talking points be wild, man. I draft the nose tackle every year. How did Perion Winfrey work out? What about Siaki Ika? We've been drafting defensive tackle every week. Tommy Togiai. I mean, we just got Mike Hall Jr. We just got Zach Zinner with our pick last year. Don't look like he could play either. Come on, man. Stop. This is a great one, man. I actually thought Corey Coleman was going to be a wide receiver number 1. Digman Freud, I like the name too. Yeah. Shout out to Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman was on the UCSS, man. He has some issues, saying he opened about some mental health situations after he stopped playing. But I thought he was going to be one of them dudes too. I thought during that time period, remember, here's another one. Y'all remember Terrell Pryor? Terrell Pryor for that 1 year when they had Hugh Jackson and RG3. Boy, that team was one of the worst teams I've ever seen. But for 1 year, Terrell Pryor is all we had, bro. That's all we had. He was running Wildcat. Dude had 1,000 yards. I thought they was going to re-sign him. He should have took that deal. I think they offered him like 4 years, $32 million. He turned it down. Eventually went to the Commanders. Played for the Jets a little bit, but I thought that receiving core of Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, and your boy Terrell Pryor was going to be lit. All right, G's point is their opinion. G's point is their opinion isn't that educated. They can just be pessimistic about most guys and be right more times than not. That's not being an expert, in my opinion. Finally, somebody gets it. All I'm trying to do is thank you, Trill Hill 7714. Finally, somebody is picking up what I'm trying to put down. The reality of the situation is this. When people keep saying, and this is the thing that I was trying to combat. When people keep saying there aren't any quarterbacks in this draft, it's patently ridiculous. when you aren't, when you're in the general public, you're counting on people to give you accurate information so that you can base a decision on something. And what's happened is we give people a guru status and tell us, hey, what should I think? And because there's a group of individuals that have been put there in a position, they trickle down this thought process that stops you from critically thinking. If you're going to tell me, how am I going to take your word that there's no quarterbacks in this draft and they're not worth taking when the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks that are currently living today have been maligned and talked about like they were garbage, that they weren't good, that they were very like they had all kind of, like, who cares if you hit on a defensive tackle or offensive tackle? Most offensive tackle play is subjective anyway. Go look at the wild differences between PFF scores. But when you come back and you tell me, and go back and rewind this clip, because I'll go back over a lot of names. When somebody says that Josh Allen his highest level is a poor man's Baker Mayfield, then I can't talk. You trying to tell me about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward? If you can't get Mahomes right, if you can't get Lamar Jackson right, if you can't get Jalen Hurts right, what makes me feel like I'm just going to come up here and be like, yep, yeah, whatever he said? Ain't nobody in this draft, bro. Nobody. No one in the draft. The new John the Baptist dude's on fire, man. I'll be telling you, they be acting like they tell you generational type player. That boy ain't won nothing. That dude, listen, Trevor Lawrence ain't won a thing. Tell me about your generational type players. What's this? All right, let's draft to reach a quarterback at 2. When they suck, let's blow it all up and trade everyone yet again and waste the talent, live in the basement for the next decade or 2. No, here's what I'm saying, Just Cam. You not taking the quarterback cost you to blow it up to start with. You don't understand that. We are here at the precipice of losing Myles Garrett because you don't have a quarterback. Because you aren't developing talent. You drafted Myles Garrett. You went 1 in 31 so you can have the right to draft him. You drafted a defensive end. And then you bungled the bag. You had another opportunity to get a franchise quarterback when you took Baker. Other teams took Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Then you said he wasn't good enough to play. He then goes to Tampa Bay and he's a Pro Bowler. You fumbled the bag. Deshaun Watson, we all know that's been greatly, we've already talked about it. It's greatly already been thrown out there. We know, we get it, we understand. But guess what? At the end of the day, you missed on that too. So now they've given you another year. You've gone 3 and 14. Now I don't want to hear anything about no quarterbacks, because now you have to pick your quarterback. Don't give me an excuse that Baker Mayfield was Dorsey's pick. Don't give me an excuse that circumstances was Deshaun Watson. It was a group effort. We wanted Deshaun. No, here's what you're going to do, Kevin. You're going to call the plays. You're going to go and stand on a podium, and you're going to get a quarterback in this draft. If they don't want to get it at 2, they better have it at 2, at number 2 overall. The second round is available, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I don't care what it is. You're going to get that quarterback and you're going to develop him. And if you want a veteran, you're going to get him and you're going to make him better. The ball's in your court. All of I'm tired of everybody getting fired but the guy. It's Van Pelt's fault. It's Ken Dorsey's fault. It's Odell Beckham Jr.'s fault. It's Baker Mayfield's fault. It was Deshaun Watson's problem. DTR wasn't ready to go. It was COVID. I couldn't get my plays together. Baker wouldn't return our calls. It's everybody but you, bro. At some point, you gonna have to deal with it. And ain't no such thing as a reach. You're gonna have to coach somebody up. Let's get to my next comment. Let's get to my next joint.